say it in Spanish, vegan empowerment coach. And I'm here today with my friend Geoff Palmer. I'm really excited to hear his story. I mean, of really coming down from the darkest place and rising as an influencer to all humans on this planet. I'm excited to hear this story, and I'm excited that you all are with us here watching live or on the replay. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, and please let StreamYard give permission to StreamYard permission to use your name in the comments, so we'll know what questions you're having and who's having them and what comments. And very thankful for everyone being here. And welcome, Geoff. Tell these wonderful vegans and plant-based eaters and human beings about you. And tell us what your concentration is right now with the plant-based movement.
Yeah, I've been vegan for 37 years. 59 years of age and the best health and best fitness level I've ever been in my life, even in my 30s. So it's nice to be, pushing in on 60 years of age and feel like I have another good 40 years ahead of me to enjoy in good health, And for me, it's not so much just about lifespan, but health span, which is how long we can live a life of health, enjoy health with full faculties. Yeah, I've got glasses, like a lot of people my age, but and the gray hair to go with it. But hey, I'm fully functional. I work out almost every day. I love life. I have all my capacities. Feel honored and blessed to have taken care of my body for so long. I was just reading Rich Roll, watching a Rich Roll video on a centenarian, just turned 100 years old, and he actually went whole food plant-based at the age of 69, and now he's 100 years old and still running marathons at 100. Actually, he's got 4 world records for his age group. So that's what I really want to encourage and convey to people is the extraordinary health benefits they can get from a plant-based diet. Not just extending a life, because it's no fun living a long life if you're in pain and suffering. And I was in a lot of pain and suffering when I started, as the title of the video suggests. I was raised in a very close-knit family. We're a high IQ family, so I communicated well with my family members and not so well with people outside of my family. But when I lost my mother and my father and my brother all at a young age, I felt like that network, that sounding board, that place where I could discuss very complex ideas and things just went away. And it was very, very difficult for me. I had a difficult time coming into my early adulthood, trying to make sense of this world, which seemed aggressive, greedy, selfish. And, I'm a caring human being. I always have. It was the way I was raised, with respect for all other peoples, regardless of gender, race, creed, sexual preference, whatever. I embraced everyone, and I felt so much love from that environment. But when I entered the real world, the work world, and that, I just found the world very difficult to live in, and didn't really question whether I wanted to be here at all. And it led me to a very dark place of depression, and the depression just seemed to spiral downward. And of course, like many people suffering with depression, they reach for things that can help numb the pain. And I did the same with the drugs and the alcohol and the cigarettes and everything else I could get my hands on, basically, working fast food at that age. But that just made it all worse, obviously. And that downward spiral took me to a place of attempting to take my own life, not once, but twice.
How old were you then, Geoff?
I guess I was like 20 or around there.
And then what happened to your parents and your brother? You said that you lost them at a young age. Were they young or you were young?
Both. I lost my dad when he was 48 from alcohol. I lost 48. I was just 3 days before my 18th birthday when he left this world from alcohol abuse. And of course, I suffered with his behavior as an alcoholic for many years prior to that. My mother from multiple sclerosis, and my brother from schizophrenia, who took to the streets and then just ended up missing. I just lost a brother completely, like lost. No one knows where he is, his body, and that's been for over 50 years. Nothing. So who knows where he is? He could have crawled out in the forest somewhere and been killed by animals. No one knows.
Oh my gosh. So did he pass before your parents? Or
my father passed first when I was 17, just almost 18, and then my brother, and then my mother. And so it was brutal. And watching my mother's, watching multiple sclerosis just take my mother's body away part by part, just was hard. And I was her caregiver. I took care of her. I sat her on the toilet. I wiped her bottom. I bathed her. Doing that with your mother is a very emotional challenge. And having to do that on a regular basis, take care of your own mother as almost like a baby. You expect to do that with a baby, but when it's your own child, there's a difference. When it's an adult human being whose body is just breaking down and breaking your heart, why you have to do what you need to do, that it just makes everything else that much more difficult. And I was really, really close with my mother. So
it's really sad. And she didn't drink, or she
no,
didn't drink?
no, she did not. And just last year, I read about a study that showed the connection between eating meat, the microbiome, and autoimmune diseases, including multiple sclerosis. And that there is an actual, almost direct correlation between eating meat and autoimmune diseases. And I remember reading that study and just my eyes filling with tears and saying, look, Mom, I finally found the answer. And 30, 40 years too late, but
Gosh, I know what you mean. I mean, my best friend had Crohn's disease, and she loved meat, right? And she would be in pain when she ate. She'd be scared to eat. And I remember going to Mexico and Juarez, trying to get the pills for pain because she didn't want to go to the hospital. She'd do everything to stay out of the hospital. And I think, oh my gosh, what I know now, years later after she's passed away, and she had a colostomy bag, and she was just like, it was just like destroyed her to get that. She cried and she said, I'm never going to get married now. And she was full of life, my friend. And oh my gosh, yeah. So I know what you mean. Like, now we know so much more, which is a blessing. I mean, and now we're helping people. Thank God you're helping people. And gosh, yeah. But what about your father? And so what was the relationship between your father and you? And did he ever talk about drinking? Did he ever express remorse, or did he try to stop drinking?
He was a closet drinker. So he did it mostly after hours, after we were all asleep, or we later found out he was hiding bottles in the shed, in his car, at his work. He was a professor at the university. He taught existentialism and English literature. Very bright human being, but after reading his poetry, some of the poetry he wrote, he named me Geoffrey after Geoffrey Chaucer, his favorite poet. But reading his poetry, I could see the angst that he was going through, and almost the same existential challenges, which is, how do I make sense of a world and where do I fit in? What's my purpose here if the world seems so different than the way I want to be and what I want from other people? We were raised fully compassionate, to embrace and celebrate diversity and other people, and just to recognize people's beauty within, as and when going out into the world and the workplace, it's just such different. The hierarchical, the competition, the people putting each other down, the people hurting each other emotionally, physically, intellectually. And unfortunately, I picked up a mechanism from him because he was very bright. Both my parents were. My mother was a psychologist, a child psychologist, so she was helping children, underprivileged children, cope with this reality too. And so, being raised by an existentialist and a psychologist, you can imagine what kind of conversations we were having at the dinner table.
Wow.
But in that, I saw he was struggling and could not make sense of the world either, and which is why he drank, to try to numb that. And in some ways, I feel like he was ashamed of his intelligence at some level, because it separated him from people. And that's such a sad place, that when we have gifts in this world, that people will make fun of us, or people will hold that against us, or people will think, oh, you're too smart, go away from it. I intentionally got bad grades at school just so I would be welcomed by my peers, because I remember a girl who was very attracted to me, and I was her in school, and she saw my report card with all straight A's, and she goes, oh, I didn't realize you were really smart. Never mind, I'm not interested. And I'm like, and that sent a message that kind of stayed with me for a while, and it made me think that I'm just not welcome here, that who I am. And so I took that to the inevitable place and said, well, then if I'm not liking it and people aren't liking who I am, then maybe I should just leave. So I cut my wrists and was bleeding out. I went unconscious and probably was about an hour away from being dead. And my brother, for whatever reason, had come into the apartment and just had an intuition to come check on me, and went into the bedroom and found me. And the ambulance came and they saved my life. And the second time was a drug overdose, and I was in a coma for 3 days and still survived. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even do this part right.
And so that when you were like about 17, 18? I mean, these
Yeah,
years?
after my father died when I was 18, my brother had already been fully diagnosed, full-blown schizophrenic, and had taken to the streets, and my mother was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and was starting to lose her physical abilities. So, at that point, I'm like, okay, well, I need to find out. I need to use this brain that I've been given, and try to figure this out. And I was in a bar just drinking as usual, and I saw a woman walk in who I'd never seen before at, the local bar that I was always hanging out, getting drunk in, and she was really beamingly happy. And I'm like, oh, what the heck? I just walked straight up to her and I said, can you teach me how to be happy like that? And of course, she was taken aback. It's not something a stranger usually comes up to anybody and asks. But look, I was ready to bow out anyway. So what did I have to lose? And she laughed and she goes, yes. And she goes, let me take you to a friend of mine. He's a Native American healer. And I said, oh, cool. But I had become so pessimistic, so cynical, I just given up on the world. I hated the world, the way it was. And so we went to his place, and I'm like, all right, great, take me to your leader, right? Yeah. And so he opened the door. His name Buddy Skyfeathers. Buddy, if you're watching, thank you. You changed my life. And he stood in the doorway, and I was like, oh, that's kind of rude. And he just took a pause and looked right into my eyes, and then smiled and said, oh, you came here to prove me wrong. And I'm like, oh, okay. I've never felt so naked in my life. He saw me, not who I wanted him to see. He saw me. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I have to lose? You're clearly good at this, at recognizing that and me. You're 100% right. I was, and I'm ashamed of that. And so we went in and sat down on the couch and just started talking, yada, yada, I thought, nothing about nothing. And he goes, oh, it's your father. And as soon as he said that, my heart just like, and he goes, do this for me. He goes, you lost your father, didn't you? And I said, yes. And he says, I could tell you're wearing it. And he said, do this for me. Just repeat this one line. I created the separation between my father and myself, and then finish the sentence. So I did that and would say something that he did that made me angry. And he goes, no, that's what he did. Tell me what you did to create that separation. And I just kept repeating this over and over. And he kept saying, no, go back, go what? And I could feel the layers of the onion just peeling away, all the excuses that my mind, all the rationalizations that my mind had made up to defend me against this pain that I was sitting with that was killing me. And I said, why couldn't I just tell you I love you? And boy, the dam broke and the tears just pulled. And I was holding so much anger at him for leaving me at such a critical point in my life that I couldn't love him. I wouldn't let myself love. And when I felt that love again, it was like a dam breaking. And I felt the forgiveness. I saw he was hurting, not what he did to me, but he was hurting so badly he took his own life. And I was holding on to that anger, and that anger was keeping me from loving not only him, but anybody else, including myself. That opened a floodgate of love and a reconnection to myself through forgiveness. After I was done crying, it was the deep cry, that soul-wrenching cry. And my stomach was in pain from crying so intensely. My jaws were hurting. But right after that, I felt this wash of release, of freedom into the loving self that I knew I was all along. But I was dying, holding on to this pain and this resentment towards him, and it was killing me. But when I let that go, when I reconnected to the forgiveness and reconnected to all the love I had felt for him, that I was holding back because of the anger was in front of it. Wow. I felt like my whole hands and face and head were just plugged into a light socket. There was so much energy flowing through me. It was phenomenal. I instantly looked around the room and was seeing all colors of auras in everyone. I was seeing the energy in everyone else around me. And of course, they were beaming, seeing me go through this transformation. I was so buzzing. I went home and I couldn't sleep because it's just, I was so filled with this excitement for feeling like I got a second chance at life. Like I start over, like I get to begin here now and live what should be a normal, healthy, happy life. I'm like so grateful for this, to be released from this thing that was just about to cause my own death. And to feel all this love coming through me for everything, So I just sat in meditation and I said, wow, in such gratitude, how do I give this back? How do I pay this forward? How do I share this with other people? And in meditation, I just was meditating all night, just trying to be calm so that I could get to sleep, for one, because it was almost 6 a.m. And I looked out the window and I saw the sun rising. And I connected with that. And I felt kind of the sun rise inside myself, my own rising of that energy level. And it said, my inner voice just said, stop harming the animals. Don't eat them. And it's like, it was like the purest, cleanest, most obvious. And I'm like, why did I never see that before? And it was just a gratitude of, I don't want to harm anything anymore. I don't want to harm myself. I was inadvertently harming others in my anger that I was carrying around with me. I was saying mean and nasty things to people. I was being critical of other people out of a defense mechanism because I was hanging on to this anger. And I didn't realize it while I was in it. And it's only when I released that I was like, damn, I was an unhappy person. And that unhappiness was hurting a lot of other people. So I said, I don't want to ever do that again. And, that moment, I quit drinking, quit doing all drugs, quit smoking cigarettes, and quit eating all animal products that day. 37 years later, it's still the same. And there's never been anything so crystal clear before in my life. Now, I get it. Most people aren't going to have such a profound transformation like that. But I do like sharing that part of my story to know if there's anybody out there who is suffering to a great degree, there is hope. And that forgiveness is the most powerful tool in your tool chest to break through that. I mean, my whole worldview changed in that moment. I was thinking, what does the world have to give to me? What is the world why am I here? What do I get from this world? And in that moment, when I embraced that love and my new mission, my new purpose in life, it's like, oh my God, I'm not here to get something. I'm here to give something. It's what we all are here to do. We come into this realm to give who we are, these amazing beings that we are, full of emotion, full of love, full of kindness, full of all these beautiful gifts. We get to give that. And that we each have individual specific talents and gifts that are unique to us. And you and I am the only one that can give that. And that's such a powerful thing. It's such a great reason to get up and look forward to every day in life and say, oh my God, what do I get to give to other people today? So, I said, after being vegan for a couple of years and feeling this transformation of my body, I'm a science geek. I was a biopsych major in college. So I was studying the natural sciences. That's my field, right? Biology, physiology, and how it affected mood and behavior, obviously, because I dealt with depression and I wanted to learn, hey, what are the mechanisms of action going on here with nutrition? And the more I learned, the more it just became really, I remember reading back to my college, God, I wish I had that paper. I quote this all the time. I've never been able to find the study again, but I was researching a chemical that was inhibiting serotonin. And serotonin is a natural mood elevator, right? The serotonin SSRIs are the natural antidepressants. They're selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors is what they are. They boost the levels of serotonin in your brain. But there was an inhibitor there blocking serotonin. I'm like, what is that chemical? And I found it came from animals. And I'm like, well, what's it doing in our body? Well, it's interesting. When you kill an animal or when you put it under stress or when it's in a fear for its life, it releases these chemicals in its brain to shut off serotonin. Why does it do that? Because serotonin relaxes and calms the body, and you need just the opposite if you're fearing for your own life. You need hyperactivity. You need, full-blown do whatever it takes, So the brain shuts down the serotonin. And every time we eat an animal that's been killed, it's full of that chemical because it releases it to flood through the whole body. And then you eat the flesh. Now, it's not the same chemical that our own body uses. Our own body does the same thing under stress or the threat of life. It releases that chemical that blocks the neurotransmitters in the brain. And that's why stress is really hard for people too. We definitely need to work on lowering our stress. But every time we're eating, we're taking this chemical in, and it tricks the brain into thinking that it's under stress or threat of life. And I'm like, wow. And I was later reading books on spirituality and stuff like this. And I like, well, that's karma. You're harming the animal. It's releasing chemicals into its flesh. We eat that flesh, and then it's harming us. That's a direct action for action. You're causing pain and suffering. Now you're actually reducing the human body's ability to feel joy, to feel happiness, to feel comfort. I'm like, wow, there it is. Chemical karma. I'm like, wow. So it just fascinated me. And I said, all right, if I'm going to help people, where can I be the best asset? What do people do most often? 1, they eat. 2, they move. Everybody does that. So I'm like, if I can get them to eat better, and if I can get them to move more, that will both improve their internal. And so that was my path. I wanted to find a way to try to help people through diet and exercise. So worked in the natural products industry, learned as much as I could, and then developed my own company, Clean Machine, to try to help people, one, choose plants over animal products so that they can feel and enjoy the benefits and the health benefits, but also the emotional and psychological benefits too, as well, that I was experiencing. When I traveled all over the world, 48 countries. I was trying to learn from all the different cultures and different religions, all the different practices they do to help elevate or evolve or have breakthroughs. And I was doing a sweat lodge with some Native Americans up in Maine. And you get into the sweat lodge and then you pour out the sweat, right? Just this amazing heat closed in, and just the body releases all this water. And then I was releasing all these emotions, started just pouring out along with it. And then all these thoughts just started pouring through. And I'm like, that's why they're doing a practice. They're taking one element, right? The physical nature, and moving it significantly. And then the emotional state wants to move with it. The psychological state wants to move with it, because we're a whole human being. And I'm like, you could just take one aspect of the human experience and get it to move. All the rest of it can move with it too. So you can use food as a way to heal the inner body, both emotionally and psychologically, as well as physically. And I'm like, wow, this is a powerful tool, because we eat 3 or more times every day, most people. And what we're eating is really negatively impacting our health. So if I could just get people to experience some positive benefits just by choosing some products that are plant-based, maybe they'll say, wow, I feel better on this. What can I do more of this? That lead in to, hey, I want to feel better. When I was working at 24-Hour Fitness, we did a big study why people stopped going to the gym. And the number one reason was I didn't get results fast enough. People are impatient. They want results now. So I said, oh, well, if I can give them maybe some herbs or plants or nutrition that is peak nutrition, they can get to those results sooner and they'll stay motivated. They'll say, hey, I see the pounds coming off. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to stay with it. I'm feeling good about this. That's what I want to do. And the combination of a plant-based diet and exercise is the fastest way to get there, to see results and to stay empowered, stay on track and stay excited. Like, okay, this is great. I want more. Show me what's next. How can I do this better? You know? So.
Right. Definitely. And I see a lot of great comments coming in. So, everybody, thanks for watching. I'm like, let's see, let me show. Here's somebody, but I'm not sure who it is. Thank you, Geoff Palmer, for sharing your story. Very grateful to hear your words. And Aaron, thanks for watching. What an absolute blessing to receive such a beautiful awakening. And he's also saying thanks. What an amazing story. Thanks for sharing with us, Geoff. And then Angela, and then we'll go back to another comment. She's out there working out, and that's no surprise. Y'all are two powerhouses. Yes. So thanks for watching. And then I'd like for you to address this, Geoff. Thank you for sharing your story. I greatly struggle with genetic depression and anxiety disorder. I'm still here, though, trying to fight.
I'm glad you're still here. I'm glad I'm still here. I can't imagine the life that I would have missed. I can't imagine because I'm living it. I'm, have a successful business. I'm married to one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever met. Thank God that she found me also interesting. But I'm just so loving life right now. And to come from such a dark place where it seemed like a black hole with no end out to crawl out of, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I noticed the word genetic used. I'm not a practitioner, but genetics. Okay, so there are two things in genetics. There's a thing called epigenetics. Epi means over. So the gene along the DNA can have a predisposition to alcoholism. I have that gene. It doesn't mean I have to be an alcoholic. I was, but I stopped it. And I could have a glass of wine with a friend and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't mean I feel like I want to have more. Before then, I drank to get drunk, and it was the only reason I drank. It's here. It's the mindset. This controls your genes and controls your actions. So epigenetics, epi meaning over the gene, means that things can turn on and turn off a gene. So you may have the predisposed for something, but that gene can, through meditation, through proper diet, through exercise, can be turned off. Many of those genes can be turned off epigenetically. Second, there's adaptive alleles. On the gene, there's alleles at the end. Adaptive alleles mean these are new directions that can override your genetics. There are even these small structures inside every cell on every species on this planet, plants, animals, and otherwise, called heat shock proteins. Heat shock proteins are small little, look like knotted balls of protein. These heat shock proteins can actually go in and change our genetic structure. This is how genetic adaptation is created. So don't think of genetics as that's my fate. Genetics are not fatalistic. They are up to you by and large, in many parts. Now, there are some genetic mutations like birth and or radiation. Interesting study they did on the people living in Hiroshima, which got severe DNA damage from the nuclear blast, right? An atomic bomb, nothing more, a bigger dose of radiation than that. And so the atoms actually go right through our body and they slice up and cut up our DNA. And therefore, they used to assume that this was irreparable damage. You cannot repair that damage to the DNA. Yet they found people living 60, 70, 80, 90 years of age after being totally exposed to a nuclear blast. Why did they not get cancer? Why did their DNA not start producing mutations? They looked at their DNA and it had healed. It had self-repaired. They thought this was impossible. They thought once DNA was damaged, it couldn't be fixed. We now know differently. So don't use genetics as an excuse. It's not to say that 100% we've got that figured out on every level for every person. No, and I wouldn't make that claim. But whether or not you have a genetic predisposition, like I have a genetic predisposition to alcoholism. It's in every male in my family, going back several generations. And I was an alcoholic too. That doesn't mean I have to be. It doesn't mean I have to live that life. It's still your choice, and you can still use your mind.
And
yes.
I have short. So what does that mean exactly? Short alleles.
Yes, alleles are like, think of them like the very ends of DNA. So we used to think once those alleles are shortened that there can't be any repercussions, that they're permanent, and that's not, we now know that that's not true. Alleles can be lengthened. Actually, there's really good research. You can just type and go into PubMed, type in allele lengthening plant-based diet, and you'll find lots of nice studies on that too as well. So even those with shorter alleles, you can lengthen those alleles. You can extend those alleles. There's herbal supplements that will do that, but the plant-based, whole food plant-based nutrition is also shown to do that as well. Serotonin is produced in the gut by gut microbacteria. Actually, about 70% of all the serotonin in your body is produced in the gut. So changing your gut microbiome by eating a plant-based diet. Remember, these good guys, right? These bacteria that produce the serotonin, what do they feed on? What keeps them alive? Fiber, polyphenols, most of the plant prebiotics, right? Like inulin, some starches, things like this, all from plants. When you feed the good guys, the bacteria that are producing your serotonin, they multiply and increase, and they'll produce more serotonin. When I changed to a plant-based diet, my serotonin levels went through the roof. I was buzzing. I felt like I was high from doing it because our microbiome changes. Amazing study just last week came out, showed that within hours of eating a meal, you can have a significant change in your microbiome. Both the type of bacteria that are there, the diversity of the bacteria, and the size and quantity of the bacteria. In 24 hours, you can see a heightening of certain bacteria, including the bacteria that produce serotonin. So remember the cause correlation, right? Don't just say, this is where I'm at. It sucks. That's what I used to do. Say, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to be. How do I get there? How do I get to optimal serotonin production? Change what you're eating. It will change your microbiome. They will increase the amount of serotonin.
And so we're talking about a really whole food, plant-based diet. We're not talking about vegan diet here. We're talking about up in the game to really, I mean, eating the foods of the earth. And I mean, how can you, of course, your body's going to respond when we put these foods that come from the earth that are easy to process, you know, I mean, easy to digest, and compared to the meat, which is so hard to digest for us. So yeah, and I hear a lot of people saying also that they can't eat fruits and vegetables, that they just don't, you know, it upsets their stomach. And then I remember hearing about Fit for Life saying you can't eat fruit after you've eaten meat. You have to eat fruit on an empty stomach or first, because then the fruit will get stuck behind the meat and rot. And then I wonder if that's why people are saying, well, I can't eat fruit and vegetables because they upset my stomach. What would you say about that?
Of course. So fruit, just like if you leave it out on the table for a long time, it'll eventually ferment. Yeah, that's how we make wine, right? If you take fruit, you let it sit out, and fruit juice, let it sit out, it'll ferment and turn into wine. Well, guess what this digestive tract is? It's a giant fermentation tank. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. It's bacteria that ferment sugars and turn them into different nutrients and stuff. It's how our body breaks down. About 80% of all of our digestion doesn't come from our stomach or our enzymes. It comes from our microbiome. So they do the fermentation. They break it down and make the nutrients bioavailable to humans. Yes, if you put something in that slow, meat is very slow to break down. It's a complex protein, very hard to break down. And because it's hard to break down, meat empties out of the stomach about 3 to 4 hours before it's called gastric emptying. The stomach will let go of it because it's busy there, sitting there trying to produce more and more acid to try to break down that meat. So it's a little bit more broken down more before it gets in there. Now, fruit is the easiest thing in the world to digest. That's why you feed it to babies, right? What do you feed a baby when it's coming to the world? Fruit, exactly, because it's the easiest to digest, has the most high nutrition rate besides dark greens, nutrition, antioxidants, vitamins. Fruit's a near perfect food. But it digests very quickly and easily. Now, if you put something that's going really slow because it's doing that, and you put something on top of it that's wants to go right through there. Look, if you look at our digestive tract, if you look at a carnivore's digestive tract, it's very smooth walled, so that meat, which can actually putrefy and spoil, won't get caught in any folds or anything. So it's a nice smooth walled in a carnivore, so that meat doesn't get caught in any little grooves or crannies or things like that. And two, it's very short. You look at ours and it's long and folded. Now, why would a digestive tract be folded? More surface area. So you have more area for something that's moving fast through the digestive system to be able to absorb. You're giving more chance for opportunity for more surface area. You want just the opposite if you're eating meat. You want a smooth wall. We don't have that. Carnivores do. All herbivores have the folded digestive tracts. And what happens is when you eat meat and the body sees it starting to putrefy, the body will secrete mucus to protect the layer there, because a putrefied material can cause cancer growth, can cause cancer cells. Well, if that putrefied material gets into a groove and sticks, then the body will secrete more mucus right over top of it. Now you have an impacted colon. This is one of the main leading causes of colon cancer. Not only that, when meat gets digested in the digestive tract, meat, including all the land animals, pigs, chickens, cows, doesn't matter, all contain heme iron. So heme iron, when it's in the meat, heme iron's in the blood. Heme is what we use, what all animals produce endogenously, but it shouldn't be in an herbivore's digestive tract. Heme iron can turn into and create nitrosamines. These are known carcinogens. So when you eat an animal product, you're actually putting carcinogens in there. And because of the shape of our digestive tract, those carcinogens can catch in here. And because of our protective nature of mucus, covering that to prevent that cancer-causing particle from touching or causing real tumor growth in our colon, does that. Now, normally you'd eat plants and it would scrape that out, and all that roughage would pull that mucus out and you get it. But people are eating meat, and then they're eating meat again, and they're eating meat again for the meal, and they're eating meat the next day. The human body can't handle that, and eventually those putrefied particles can pile up, and as cancer-causing nitrosamines can resort to cancer. It's very funny when I hear people say, "Oh, plant-based diet doesn't have a good source of iron in it." And plant-based iron is bound to a really interesting molecule called phytate, or IP6. IP6 is a really cool compound. You can look it up. You can type in IP6 cancer. Go into PubMed or Google and just put IP6, which is an inositol phosphate, a hexaphosphate, six phosphates stuck onto an inositol molecule. So it can actually go into a cancer cell and turn off the gene that would make it grow. So metastasization, when the cancer cell grows, that's what causes most of cancer. About 90 to 95% of people who die from cancer are not from the tumor itself, but from the metastasization, when it spreads throughout the body. That phytate is IP6, actually is anti-cancer, stops the cancer from forming to begin with, can apoptize or kill the cancer cell, and even turn off its gene to prevent it from metastasizing. I mean, that's as good as it gets. Just the opposite, heme iron from animals. Heme iron's only found in animal products. It's not found in plants. Heme iron is cancer causing. So which of these two food groups do you want? Do you want the heme iron found in animal products that causes cancer? Or do you want the one that has phytates that actually reverses and kills cancer cells? Right. It seems really clear when you look at the physiology and you look at the chemical thing. They used to say that, yes, but heme iron absorbs so much faster. We now know in recent research that when you have a fast-acting heme iron getting into the bloodstream, the body actually from the liver produces a cool chemical called hepcidin. This blocks that iron from getting in, because too much iron getting into the bloodstream can be lethal, can kill you. So the body has a really good mechanism of stopping heme iron from getting from our digestive tract into our bloodstream, where it can cause diabetes, heart attacks. And why? Because what is iron? Iron is a metal. What happens when you put metal in water? It rusts, oxidizes. Oxidation is one of the leading causes of illness, indirectly through inflammation or directly. Heme iron's been associated with diabetes. Heme iron has been associated with colon cancer. Heme iron has been associated with lots of different cancers in the body. This heme iron should not be in our body. The only heme iron we need is the one that we produce from plant-based iron. And remember, the microbiome won't break free that phytic acid and release the iron into that. We actually know, and this is really cool, that the body sends cell signals saying, hey, we've got enough iron in here, sends it to signals to the cells that line the intestinal tract, and the cells communicate with the bacteria saying, don't break free any more of that phytic acid. We're good on that. And the microbiome will stop breaking down that iron to not produce it. So there's a direct communication between our own body and our microbiome to create a homeostasis of iron. When you put an animal product in there, it's free iron. A microbiome can't do anything with it. It just wants to go right into the bloodstream. That's why the liver has to produce this hepcidin to block that heme iron from getting in. But when you do that, all that heme iron piles up in your digestive tract because it's not getting into the bloodstream. And that's what's causing most of the colon cancer that we're seeing in here. And it's right there. It's in the food that we're eating. And it's really clear the differences between cancer-causing heme iron in all animal products and the plant-based, which is anti-cancer causing. I don't know how people can not see how clear this is of what we're doing to our body. The great thing, I love the title of your thing, Vegan Empowerment. It's empowering to have this information, because then you can choose a life that you don't have to live with cancer in it. It's up to you by what you put in it. It's the food that's causing the cancer. Cancer just doesn't happen. Cancer, all right, let's talk about what a cancer cell is. A cancer cell is simply a human cell that has become aberrant. It is being told to grow too much, which is in size, which is a tumor, or grown too much, which is in replication, which is multiplying, which is mass, is what really actually does most of the cancer deaths in there. Now, the cell, a human cell forming cancer is actually a defense. If it gets stimulated by a toxin too much, it's trying to survive. And it does this by turning on the gene inside that says replicate, right? Because if we're getting poisoned and one of us dies, at least maybe one of us will stay alive. So it's a defense mechanism of our own body's cells trying to stay alive. But if you keep doing that, then that gene can get stuck in an on position and it just keeps growing out of control. That's cancer. It's what you are doing, either through stress or diet or lack of exercise or toxins, causing that. Mostly it's from the food that we're putting in, causing these cell signalings to our cells to convert a healthy cell to a cancer cell. Remember, the phytic acid, it can actually go into a cancer cell, a full-blown cancer cell, turn off that gene and revert it back to a healthy, normal cell. Science, medicine, doctors can't even do what a plant can do. Turn a cancer cell back into a healthy cell. That's the empowerment I want to give to people through the information. Your physiology, this gift, this human body is a miracle if we just give it what it's asking for.
I know, you're right. I mean, and your body wants to help you, right? Your body wants to heal herself or himself, right? Or, your body is here for you, and your mind too, whatever we put into it, right? Our mind's going to work for us if we allow it, if we're feeding it the right thoughts. I mean, we have the choice to believe a thought that's negative and holds us down, or an empowering thought that lifts us up. Just like we have the choice to put in the plant-based, the whole food plant-based meal, or this junk from McDonald's. It isn't even food. I don't even want to call it food. So yeah, and Aaron is right. This is awesome. So I have another question. What's the difference between amino acids that come from, because someone's asked, someone was telling me about this, about amino acids from animals,
Yes.
And then amino acids from the plants. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah. So, it's funny when people say, by the way, there's me, 17-inch arms at 60 years of age almost. Natural bodybuilding champion, natural physique champion. That's just showing you what an incredible self-healing machine this is if we give it the right things. Okay. So the question I get, is where do you get your protein, right? Well, we all get it from the same place. All 9 essential amino acids are made by plants, and only plants. I take that back. There are some bacteria that can actually make that, but I don't see anybody sitting down to a bowl full of bacteria for breakfast in the morning. So let's just, on the conversation then, say all of the essential amino acids, there's 9 of them, but all are made by plants. Animals cannot make essential amino acids or essential fats. That's why we actually call them essential, because it's essential for all animals to get them from outside of their body. They have to get them. Now, plants make all the nutrition. It's called a trophic order of sale. At the bottom is plants. They make all the nutrition. And then herbivores are the next level. They eat the plant nutrition. And then carnivores eat the herbivores to get the plant nutrition. But all of the nutrition comes from plants. It all originates in plants. All vitamins, all minerals pulled up through the soil, all protein. So how is protein made? So protein is made, protein is a carbohydrate with a nitrogen in it. So carbo meaning carbon, hydrate meaning oxygen and hydrogen. That's what a carbohydrate is. Actually, a fat cell is nothing but a more complex carbohydrate. So the only difference between a carbohydrate and a fat, and even fiber, is protein has a nitrogen molecule in it. And that's why it's called nitrogen or nitrogenous material. All right, so in an animal, we take all of the 9 essential amino acids, like humans, and we form them together to form all of the different amino acids that we need. There's lots of them. There's 20 basic amino acids, but our body actually creates even more elaborate amino acids for different functionality. But our body can create all those. Every animal can create all those from the 9 essential amino acids. Now, some people are saying, oh, but plants aren't complete proteins. Okay, this is just false. It's just flat out false. all plants contain all 20 amino acids, including all 9 of the essential amino acids. Where they got this concept was that If you look at the 9 essential amino acids, some will have certain levels and some will have other levels. So you'll look like a spike graph, a bar graph with lots of different levels in it. When they looked at the plant proteins, there were 2 amino acids that were lower than animal proteins. They're called cysteine and methionine. Okay, they're actually interchangeable, so some people consider it one. But those are the 2 that they're called sulfur amino acids because they're both bound to a sulfur molecule. Anyway, all right, so you can type this in, sulfur amino acid, cysteine, methionine. Methionine, they found, when you have it in higher amounts, like in animals, methionine feeds cancer cells. And I want you, if you're listening, to type in these 3 words, methionine-dependent cancers. Just Google that. You're going to see a whole list of things, and you'll see some of the studies say, yes, methionine restriction or lowering your methionine intake is an actual strategy to prevent cancer. They'll even say in some of the studies, a vegan diet lower in methionine and cysteine is an appropriate way to reducing your risk for cancer because methionine feeds cancer cells. So every time you're eating an animal product, eggs and fish are actually really high in methionine. You are increasing, you are feeding and nurturing the growth of tumors and cancer cells in your body. Every single time. So they used to think, oh, because it's too low in methionine or cysteine, plants aren't as good a protein. No, they're better because they're lower in cysteine and methionine. Just the opposite is true. But this old science used to think more is better. More of every amino acid is better. No, we now know less is actually better. And less is what you'll find in plants. Plants have the right amino acid profile for human body's needs so that you don't get too much of certain specific amino acids. That's how the protein themselves, great study said, hey, wait a minute. What if we just increase the levels of both plant-based protein and animal protein and see what happens? Well, they looked at a long-term study and found a 400% increase in cancer in the high animal protein. But in the same level of protein, exact same gram for gram of protein, they did not find that at all. 5 times the diabetes risk in the animal group, reduced diabetes risk in there. So it's not the amount of protein that's the problem. It's what's in that protein. The amino acid profile is different in animal proteins, and it can cause and lead to disease states. The saturated fat in animal proteins can cause hardening of the arteries, can cause diabetes. Diabetes is all about saturated fat. I hear people say so often, oh, I'm diabetic, I can't eat fruit. And I'm like, ugh. Fruit has been shown to reduce your risk of diabetes. People have even on a whole food plant-based diet have reversed it. The even large lifestyle medication and medicine group came out with a consensus statement looking at over 80 different studies and found that a plant-based diet was the most successful, non-invasive, non-surgical, non-drug way to reversing, not ceasing, reversing diabetes. It's there. The choice is yours, really. I mean, the science is there. Hey, back in 1985, March 15th, 1985, I'll never forget the date. When my life changed, I wanted to find out. Look, I knew in my heart of hearts this was the right thing. But I said, wait a minute, I've got a brain and I'm a science geek. I'm going to figure out why these things really do. And it's taken me 30 years plus. But now we have the studies. Now we have published human research that is saying everything that I intuitively knew way back in 1985.
Wow, this is amazing. I have one more question. We got to wrap this up, but I do want to know this. So when people are drinking cow's milk, what are they bringing into their body and what does it do? I mean, there's something that they're bringing into their body. Obviously, there's probably a lot, but what is something that they're turning on, bringing on, and then it turns? I mean, I don't know what I heard, but do you know what I'm talking about? What I'm trying to get out here?
So when a calf is born, it's about 60 pounds, and it wants to go to 600 to 2,000 pounds. Okay, that means it has to accelerate its growth rapidly. Now, I don't know too many human beings out there. Maybe there's some that do want to go to 2,000 pounds. But if you want to gain 2,000 pounds, milk is the right thing, because that's exactly what it's designed to do. It's designed to take a 60-pound calf into a 600-pound adult, or even higher. That's what it's doing. It has extreme growth factors. Again, when you take a healthy human adult cell that does not need to grow anymore, once you're an adult, you do not need to grow. And you give it a juice that is made for a baby calf to grow, 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 grow. And you send that signal to the cell, grow, 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 grow. It says, okay, cancer, boom. That's what you're doing. It's oversimplifying. There's so much. I couldn't spend all day talking about the science and the research and the mechanisms that are all go into it on the biochemical basis, but that's the basic thing in a nutshell. You're sending a strong message of something designed to tell cells to grow. You're putting them in an adult where it has zero need to grow rapidly. That's where the dangers come in. When you tell a cell to grow uncontrollably, that is the definition of a cancer cell. And it's loaded with fat. Why? Because fat is condensed amount of energy in it. That's perfectly needed for a baby calf to use a lot of energy quickly. As an adult, you don't need that much energy. You don't need that concentrated source of energy in your body, but that's what you're giving it. And that fat can go inside to the cells. It gums up the cell, and this shuts down the insulin receptor sites, the ability for insulin to dock, and that is type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance. It's because there's so much fat full of energy in the cell, the body says, wait, I can't take any more sugar into the cell that I can use for quick energy, right? I can't do that. So it stops the insulin from being effective. So nothing can get into the cell. And then this circulating sugar just starts to glycate and cause damage, but it's the fat inside the cell that is causing the whole thing. It's not the fruit. It's not the sugar. Sugar, actually, white table sugar has reversed diabetes in people. They put people on a zero fat diet and gave them white table sugar, and their diabetes went down. Their insulin sensitivity increased. Carbohydrates increase sensitivity of insulin, because the body says, oh, carbs available. Let's make more receptor sites so that we can get more carbs in the cell, because we can use that up real easily. Fat, different story. It gets inside the cell, glues it up, and the body says, nope, I can't take any more energy, shuts down the insulin, and that's insulin sensitivity, which is type 2 diabetes. I mean, there it is. It's our cells talking to us, you know? Don't put that saturated fat that's in all these animal products in there. Don't put that protein that feeds the cancer cells. Don't put that milk that stimulates cancer cell growth. I mean, for God, we've been putting the wrong things in our body, or the perfect things to create disease states.
Oh my gosh, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. And with that, I mean, just blindly, FDA approved. Come on, let's keep. Oh my gosh, yes. Anyway, I was thinking this, and here Aaron's validating it. Thank you, Marikita, for introducing us to Geoff Palmer. I have a new hero now. I knew he was going to say that Geoff was his hero. You better join us in Empowered Vegans, Aaron, on Facebook, my Facebook group, and everybody else. Y'all, I could talk about this all day, and I wish we could, but I guess we've got to wrap it up. So, Geoff, tell us your final words and where everybody can find you and connect, because, I mean, you're here to give hope to people just like me in different ways. And I love the way you said that we're all doing it, you know, in our own way. You know, Angela's out there giving hope also, you know, by being the same thing, a powerhouse of strength for women. And then Aaron's over there, you know, doing his vegan music, Vox Vegana. So, I mean, we're all here contributing together. So let me know your final words, Geoff, and where everyone can find you.
Yeah, and you know, for me, it's a give back. It's a lifelong mission to give back. Somebody really helped me, changed my life, and allowed me to live a happy life. That's all I want for other people. And the more I have the ability to do it, look, it's not about dogmas. It's not about being right or wrong. It's not about that at all. Let's help each other. And if I've got information that you can find useful or helpful so that you can enjoy life and not suffer, well, then I'm going to give that to you. And yeah, I just hope people remain open to the ideas. Check it out. You don't even have to take my word. There's plenty of good research out there. Now, there's a lot of garbage out there too, as well. People taking one aspect of something and saying, oh, see, this works. And it's like not understanding the science or the physiology. But it will get there. And yeah, like Marquita was saying, you just do whatever you do well. Do what you're passionate about and bring that element to it together. If we all help each other, this world can evolve and change. You know, that is big a precipice as we're sitting right now with climate change and with our environmental impacts, with the food choices that we have, just unsustainable. I still believe in the ingenuity of human, that spark of, wait a minute, now I see it differently, that we can come up with solutions to make changes that can radically change where we're at and improve us and keep us on this path to life. I know I did it in my personal life, so I'm a true believer that anyone can do it, and we can all do it cumulatively as a community and a species. We can change the path that we're on. You can catch me. I do Facebook Lives every Thursday, actually. At 4 o'clock today, I'll be doing a Facebook Live. I usually cover some of the latest research on health and nutrition. I'll be talking about metabolism and how it actually does not slow as we age like we used to think. So great research, breakthrough research that is changing the minds of people, helping us understand the nutrition, health, and fitness from a different perspective so that we can apply it and enjoy it in our own lives. You can catch me on Facebook at Clean Machine Fit, or my personal Facebook page is my name just right there on the screen. And you can also see any of the Facebook Lives on our YouTube channel at cleanmachineonline.com. And of course, all our products are available. I'm not about sales. I'm more about education. I create these products to be helpful to other people. I look for the absolute best in nutrition. We've won 13 national awards for our products because I do the research, I do the homework, and bring some products to market that most brands wouldn't do because it's too expensive or because it's not well known. I was the first to bring ahi flour to market, the richest source of plant-based omega of any plant ever discovered in the world. First to bring lintein to market, the richest source of nutrition of any plant in the world, the #1 superfood on the planet. Even NASA's considering using it for the trip to Mars. I was won the NEXTY Award, the top award for supplements on both of those. So that's what I want. That's my thanks. Thank you for having me. It's been a joy talking with you as always, and look forward to further conversations on We Did It. If you are
WeDidIt.health, please go over there, WeDidIt.health, and do the survey. If you haven't done it, share it with everybody you know. And Geoff, you're going to have to come back again and we could talk, because we could talk all afternoon. Definitely. So thank you so much. And thanks everybody for watching. Thanks, Angela. She's saying, well, I'll put up her little comment. I'm going to watch a replay of this as Geoff is giving. I know he's giving golden nuggets. I need to watch it again. Thank you so much. Thank you both so much, fellow ambassadors. I know, here we go. So thank you all for watching. Thank you, Geoff, and we'll be back here with you again. Let's do the Namaste Vegan. Namaste Vegan for everybody. Bye, everybody.